Hey everyone. Real quick disclaimer before this review begins. All thoughts are my own and my original thoughts. I was sent these paddles for potential with a review, not necessarily with a review being guaranteed, more to try them out, share my thoughts, and share my opinions and feels on how they play and how they perform in today's current pickleball market. With that being said, I do want to emphasize that I will remain unbiased and share my own opinions and thoughts on the paddles and those alone. At times, I might compare my opinions, maybe to those of other reviewers. Say if a video or a paddle has already been launched and it's a review after launch. But if it's a review before or of the day of launch of a paddle, those thoughts will be my own and my own alone. All right. Finally, I am not being paid to do this review. Typically, I will have either an affiliate's code, a discount code, or an affiliate's link, usually in the description of these videos or in the comments or in the bio somewhere on the video. Regardless, I will also try and share these in the beginning of each video. With that being said, I hope you enjoy this and enjoy the video. Hello, everyone. Today I am reviewing the new Ronbus Ripple V2s. I have the R2, the R4, and the R1. First and foremost, as always with all of my reviews, I'm going to start with the spec sheets. I am going to go a little bit off my usual structure and bring up some other interesting things I think these paddles bring to the market that no other paddle has brought to date, as well as talk about my experience comparing these to the betas. These are some of the betas here of prior Ronbus Ripples, talking about the process that has been releasing the Ronbus Ripple and talking about answering kind of a couple key questions I think are going to come up. But first being, will these paddles be legal and stay legal? Second being, will these paddles, core crush, delaminate, or break over time? So we'll find those answers out to those questions as we go through this review. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this and definitely stay tuned for more stuff like this from me in the future. So the stats for the R1 Ronbus Ripple is that is a 14 millimeter paddle. It is a 16.5 inches in length and has a face width of 7.5. It has a grip length of 5.5 inches, a grip circumference of 4.125 with this octagon shape, as seen here. The static weight comes in, for me, mine came in at about 8.3 ounces. They list 8.2 ounces with the plus minus variance of 0.2, so that's within the variance. The swing weight that they list was 124. Mine came in at 123. I did add a little bit of weight, which brought it up to 124. So that's, again, within variance. The twist weight was about just under a 6. For me, it was a 5.9. They list a 5.89. And then the paddle surface is a raw Toray T700 carbon fiber textured surface. It is elongated, as I mentioned with the specs, 16.5 by 7.5, and has an edge guard. This is something I have been seeing people ask online, so I will start showing edge guards now if they do or don't. Anyways, moving along now, we have the R4. This is the new hybrid shape of the Ronbus Ripple lineup and was not in any of the previous iterations of the Ripples. It is a paddle length listed of 16.25. Unfortunately, when I measured mine, it came in at about 16.1-ish. As you can see here, I will mention in a minute, but the R2 also came in a little lower in measurements than what they listed. I asked Dong from Ronbus about this originally over the phone when I chatted with him shortly after receiving these from him, and he said that this was to absolutely ensure USAP approval. He did not want to risk it with these paddles, especially if you guys are aware of what happened with the prior paddles. Just thinking the submission was a done deal, and then it ended up not being a done deal and costing Rhombus a lot of money, time, effort, yada yada. Um, you can kind of look into the rest from there. A lot of other the paddle reviewers, including myself, have talked about that a bit. But um, yeah, so the shapes are a touch lower than the spec sheets that we were given. I measure my all my paddles out directly with the measuring tape, which, as a matter of fact, I have right here. There you go. But yeah, so I did want to mention that. Really not a huge deal. 0.15 of an inch. Not really all that noticeable. I will say this though. I did notice it. I did hit a couple balls up here with this compared to like say the invader shape of a hybrid shape. So yeah, I do wish it was a smidge longer, but it's perfectly playable and in my opinion, a great shape nonetheless. So the face width is 7.25 inches. This was pretty true for me. I just came in at 7.2 on the dot. That's it. Very much within variance there. The grip circumference is a 4.125-inch octagon shape again. They use the same grips for all their paddles, Ronbus. I actually really like them. They're all 5.5 inches. So more than big enough for the Tui. As you can see here, I'm not really, I just do this naturally. You don't really need to. You know, you could do that fine per se and hold fine. And I have pretty big hands. So going into that, the swing weight for mine came in at 116. They list 117 with a variance of about 1. So that's within the ballpark as well. The twist weight was 5.87. Mine was also 5.87, which is so interesting to me that the twist weight's a little worse on the hybrid than the elongated, albeit not by much. It's 0.02, but to 3, but still, I just find that interesting. And then the same Toray T700 carbon fiber textured face is the hybrid shape, as I've mentioned. And the core, which I did not mention on the last one, is the 3D carbon fiber lattice infused EVA foam core. So it's carbon fiber and EVA foam in the core. And I will go into that further after I finish the spec sheet. And then this is also 14 millimeter. And yes, it does have an edge guard. Moving on, we saved the best for last, as some would say. We have the R2 Ripple by Ronbus. This is their wide body / standard shape. They list this as 16 by 8. I do want to tell you guys for a fact is not 16 by 8. Mine came in at 15.8 by 7.75-ish. And again, as I mentioned, that was just to ensure USAP approval. They did flash recently on Instagram. Ronbus did a shape that said R5 in it as well. And I was texting. Ronbus did mention to me, though, that they do have an R5 shape coming that is a true 16 by 8 shape. So it'll be really interesting to see which one people prefer. If they prefer the R2, which is a little shorter than 16 by 8, or if they prefer the R5, which is 16 by 8 on the dot. For me personally, I love that 16 by 8 shape. If you gave me the carbon True Foam Genesis 2X shape, I actually like the squared head more than the where is it? Than the round like this personally. So I would be really excited about that if that were the case. And then just with this handle, that would be like the ideal paddle for me in terms of shape. So that actually has me really excited as well. I'm really looking forward to if that one makes it to release. And when they send it to us reviewers. Anyways, going further into this, this has a swing weight of 116, a static weight that comes in at about 8.1 to 8.2 ounces. Mine came in at 8.3, so it's on the higher side. And a twist weight is 6.5. Mine came in at 6.6. Twist weight, again, higher side for static, so that does make sense too in the variance. And they list it as a wide body shape, which is correct. And they also have kind of the same specs as before with the 14 millimeter, the same core, everything, and an edge guard. This is just protection tape. And yeah, so now that we have the stats done, let's dive into these paddles a little bit. So I mentioned a question earlier in the video of, do I think these paddles are going to get delisted, banned, or have to go away again? And the answer is no. Here's why. USAP and Ronbus released a joint statement out earlier this month about these paddles coming for release for 5/30, which is the release date, and that everything's good to go, all that. They talked about the Ripple refresh program. So if you're someone that has some of the earlier Ripples that are now no longer going to be playable, yes, I wrote beta there because I just didn't want to confuse them. They look identical to the newer Ripples, minus the V2 on the side. Then you can enter this program and basically you can get what shape you send in for a lot cheaper. Unfortunately, that does take the R4 right here off the table since there was no R4 beta, but still pretty good deal. You get a brand new paddle for I think less than half the price of what these will be. I think these are going to be 280 MSRP before code, and after code around 260. So that's a pretty good deal nonetheless. If you're someone that got a beta Ripple. But anyways, I do want to dive into more about these Ripples in that they pretty much kind of bring a very unique kind of stance per se and take towards the core crushing side of things. So Ronbus is claiming that there's no more honeycomb, no more plastic, and no more core crush or things to worry about with these cores and these paddles. Off the layups that I've seen and the x-rays and the play testing, that's looking to be true so far. I've only had these for 1 month though. It's not enough time to really truly know. If I was able to put 4 to 6 months on these paddles before the launch date, then I could really tell you guys that they're going to core crush or not. I can tell you this much though. A lot of these other similar new Gen 3 to Gen 4, more so the Gen 4 style paddles of this, big emphasis on durability, more so than power, have not quote unquote core crushed for me. They've just died over time, just like normal paddles do, just through use and wear and tear. So I will say that it does look promising so far for Ronbus. My Ripples pretty much haven't broken in, and I've played in particular with the R2 and the R4 a good amount. The R1 with the least amount of time on it for me of the three, just because I prefer the other two shapes more personally. Especially with this new bump in swing weight compared to the older ones, it's kind of harder for me to use a really, really heavy elongated paddle personally. When I can just use a hybrid or a wide body / standard paddle, that's a little more in my preferred swing weight range. So going further into this, I do want to talk about the Ripple and where it stands, in my opinion, in today's paddle meta. So I think that these are some of the top line power paddles. I think that these aren't quite as hot as like a Yola Pro 4 Perseus or something like that, or really any of the Pro 4 paddles. Haven't been able to go back and get some time on those now to compare to these. So I think that these are a little bit below that. But other than that, I think these are like, this is the top, this is the Ripples right here. They're like right there towards the top. So, if you want really kind of that top end power, these are really, they're going to provide it for you right here. So I would highly recommend them in that regard. I will admit, for me personally, they can be tough to control at times, especially on like a cold day. Or if you're using like that lifetime ball outside on a cold day, it's real tough to control these. But normal conditions, I think it'll be fine, especially if you're playing with a Franklin X40 like the majority of us are most of the time in the amateur ranks here. But yeah, so getting a little bit more into these, I do want to talk about in particular the R4 shape. I do think that this is a good play by Ronbus doing a hybrid shape. I'm a huge fan of hybrids. I think this is one of the most ideal shapes you can make a paddle in. So I think it's great that Ronbus did a play at this. This is one of the only reason I don't put this in front of the R2 is because I just find the R2 lighter and easier in the hand. I really do like this R4 shape though. I am a fan. I've been enjoying it a lot. And it kind of gets the best of both worlds. We get a little more reach than the R2, but you're not really slowed down in the hands all that much. I will also say, I don't know why it has such an extreme neck taper. I didn't love that, to be honest about it. Like, it's a really extreme neck taper for some reason. Very similar to the R1, but I actually think it's a little bit more of a steep. Yeah, you can see it right there. It's a little bit more of a steep neck taper, per se, on the R4 than the R1. Just ever so slightly, not much. But anyways, let's dive into my personal playtesting and experience with these paddles. So my personal playtesting and experience with these paddles, I found that they play best when you swing for the ball. When you really want to make the ball move, make it spin, make it do stuff, these paddles play great. If you're playing defensive or just to block, you're getting hit a bunch of power at you and your balls are just sailing long or wide or where you don't want to go, I don't think these are the greatest paddle for you. I think these are the paddle for. I have a feeling we're going to see these paddles all over the place. So I think they're going to be very similar to the Yola Pro 4s. Do I think we'll see as many of these as Yolas? No, because I think Yola is a way bigger and they've got a way bigger stake in pickleball now. So I think we will still see more Yolas than these, but I do think you're going to see these around a bunch. I think these paddles are for the higher level player looking to really take their game up that can control the power and wants the power. Do I think a lower level player could work with one of these? Yes. Would I recommend a $280 paddle for a beginner? Absolutely not. By all means, go grab one of the budget paddles. There are great budget paddles in today's game you can use. There's no need to spend that much money on a paddle if you're just getting into pickleball. All right, well, these are my thoughts on the new Ronbus Ripple V2s. As always, if you are looking to buy these, I leave my discount code in the beginning of my videos, in the bio, and I have my giant discount code list that I linked on all of my videos, home pages, etc. All right. I hope you enjoyed. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Tell me what you liked, disliked, and tell me if you're going to get the Ronbus Ripple or not.